over time you may think, well, I'm not even going to take a pencil from the office because nobody gave me that pencil. So it becomes personal development through the vows. So I don't find them all that challenging except for what I put on myself personally. Doesn't mean I don't break them.
So, like, why Buddhism with all the religions that you could have chosen when leaving Judaism? Why'd you pick Buddhism?
I didn't actually pick it. I was hanging out with a couple of Catholics. One of them was a retired bishop, and the other one was a retired priest. And they would leave for weeks at a time, and I would always ask them, where do you guys go? Are you going on vacation? And it turned out they were doing meditation retreats. And I said, well, teach me meditation. And they said, no. And I kept harassing them about it. You guys got to teach me about this meditation stuff. And basically they told me there's a bookstore down the street. You can go there and get a book. Well, I went to a Buddhist temple that had a bookstore. And when I walked in, I said, I need the book on meditation. And they kind of looked at me funny, and they said, well, all those books are over there. And there was like 1,000 titles. I mean, there's just so many of them. And so I was overwhelmed. Plus, I didn't like all the idols. That was kind of creepy. Coming from a Jewish background, it was kind of very strange. So I decided, I said, I'm leaving. And as I was walking out, there was this little tiny book called Teachings of Buddha. And I thought, well, that's got to be the book on meditation. I mean, because he's the guy that invented it. At least that's what I thought. So I grabbed the book, and I took it home. It took me about a week to even open it. And once I opened it, I realized there was nothing in there about meditation. At all. And I was like, what is this stuff? But there was a little story in there. And the little story, very, very short, is about these kids building sandcastles on the Ganges, on the river in India. And as they're building these sandcastles, each one is like, this is my castle, don't touch it. Nobody's allowed to have it. And they're making it very fancy. When one kid comes over and he kicks one of the other kids' castle down, and they all attack him. And they're beating him up, and they're just like, this kid kicked down my castle. This is terrible. Let's show them that this is incorrect, and they're pounding on him. So after they beat him up, the kid runs away, and they go back to building their castles. And they're like, this is mine, don't touch it. At the end of the day, it starts getting dark, and they realize it's time to go home to get dinner. So some of the kids push their castle down, some of them trample on them, some of them just abandon them. And they all go home. And that's the end of the story. But that story impacted me when I started to think about that. That's our what we call the attachment and aversion. We're so attached to something very, very temporary that we're going to beat somebody up. Or aversion to somebody messing with this little sandcastle. That impacted me. So that caused me to want to know what this religion was about. So, a year or two into that, I signed up to be a monk. I was that impressed with the teachings. Very much. Yes?
What's the difference between, say, Zen Buddhism and the Buddhism that you practice?
Same exact teachings, different approach. All Buddhism is exactly the same. Nobody has different doctrines. Nobody has different texts that they study. It's all entirely the same. It's just different cultures, because of the makeup of the cultures, have different approaches. So in Zen, which that is the Japanese pronunciation of the word Chonin, which is the Chinese pronunciation of the word jhana, coming out of India, it's a very specific practice. And jhana is all about meditation, sitting quiet meditation. And the Chinese loved it. They were like, this stuff is great, because they were the teachings first came to the Sha'ul. So here they are, these real disciplined folks, and the teacher that brings it to them says, I'll show you real discipline, and sits in front of their wall and meditates for 9 years. Doesn't teach or anything, just sits, meditates 9 years. And at the end of 9 years stands up and goes, so how's that for discipline? And they're all like, holy cow, we've never seen anything like that. And he goes, now I'll teach you some serious discipline. And so that's Buddhism in China, or Zen. That didn't work with the Tibetans or the people in the Himalayas. They were too rough, Mongolian type people. And so their approach was entirely different. It's much more like Hinduism, actually. A lot of deities, a lot of activity, music, different ritual implements and things like that. So, but they took to that much better. Somebody just sitting, they just laughed at them.